In this video, we're going to look at how to create a web form in CRM to gather details from a website. So if we look at the Toolemu website as an example, we can see that people can throw in their details here and request a free trial. They can also put their information in here and request a demonstration session. So basically anywhere on your website where you want to capture data from either customers or leads and have that come straight into CRM, web forms are ideal for that purpose. So when I'm creating a web form in CRM, I generally have three different CRM tabs open. So in the first tab, I want to come into Marketing and Web Forms. So this is where I'm going to build my form. On the second tab, I want to come into Admin and expand this settings area. And then I'm going to come into Opportunity Settings, and I'll explain why I've made that choice later. On the third tab, I want to come into Admin, Templates, and come into Email Templates because we're going to be able to link email templates to our web form in future. So let's start creating our web form. So we come up to the top here and click on New Web Form. We need to give it a name. So to keep this simple, I'm going to call this a Contact Us website form. In here, we can leave this as default. So basically these two other options won't apply if we're just creating a basic data capture web form. So leave that as default. Related to, now this is where we want the information to go in CRM. So when somebody enters information into the website, what do we want to do with it in CRM? In this case, I would like CRM to create a new opportunity for me. So opportunities are the sales pipeline. So it means that someone can put in their details, it will come through the opportunities section, create a record in CRM for a company or a contact or both of those, so that all that data entry is done seamlessly by the system. What I can also do is anyone who fills in this form on my website, I can automatically add them to an existing campaign. So your campaigns will be stored over in Marketing and Campaigns, and you'll be able to select from an existing one here. We can also add a thank you page. So a thank you page is basically once somebody clicks submit on the web form and submits their data, where do they go from there? So what web page do they get redirected to? So quite often people will do a specific web page that says thank you for submitting the form, we'll be in touch. You can basically have them land wherever you'd like to by copying and pasting a URL in here. We of course want to make sure that this is active box is ticked to make sure that our web form is usable and we can interact with it. Now, why I opened this additional tab up here for email templates earlier is what we can do is set up two different email templates to link with this web form. So we have an employee notification template and a contact notification template. So this employee one here, we can go and pick from an existing email template so that anytime somebody fills out that web form on our website, employees in your company, the ones that you determine, and I'll show you that later, will receive an email telling them the form has been submitted. We can also send an automated email to the person that submitted the form. So in here, we can go and pick from an email template that we previously created. So when I'm working with this step, it's handy to have this page open because in here, I can go and create a new email template and link this to a web form and basically fill in the details and then go and link that up to my web form. So that will send day in, day out. And that's the beautiful thing about web forms in CRM. Because this is all automated, it will run 24/7 without any human interaction. The data comes in, the person that submitted the form is getting an automated notification, you're getting a notification as well, and it all happens very smoothly. So now that we've made our choices at the top here, what we can do is start building our form. So what information do we want to capture? So typically what we'd want to do is like name, email address, and maybe some specific information for your company. So over on the side here, you'll see that I've got contact, company, opportunity, note, and narrative. I can click on any of these boxes to expand it to reveal CRM fields. Now in here, we've got all the fields on a contact form, all the fields on a company form, and all the fields on an opportunity. So I can basically go and build my form using existing CRM fields. So the first thing that we're going to want to do for this inquiry is ask the person for their name. So I can drag over first name and last name. I'm also going to want to get an email address from them and a phone number. So I'll drag over mobile, scroll down a little bit, and we'll click on email. So that gives me the basic contact data. What I now want to do is also have CRM create an opportunity for me as well as a contact record. So I expand the opportunity here And by default, I have to give the opportunity a subject. Now you'll notice here, if we look at first name, it's got an asterisk up here for contact. If we look at opportunity, it's got an asterisk here for subject. Now those asterisks are there to signify that these are required fields. So this is the minimum information that you have to give to CRM to create these types of records. So if we're creating a contact, CRM must have a first name or it can't create the record. If we're creating an opportunity, it must have a subject or it can't create the record. It'd be the same for the company. If we come up here, we can't create a company without a company name. So making sure that you have the required fields for the type of records that you're trying to create is going to prevent a web form error from happening down the line. So I'm going to drag the opportunity subject onto the form. And what I'm also going to do is drag over the description box and the type of opportunity as well as the stage. And I'm also going to assign the record to a particular person. So at the moment, all I want to do is drag over the fields for the data that I want to capture. And once I've done that and I've got them in this central area, then I can go and play around with the fields and have a little bit more control over how my form displays. So just when we were looking at required fields before with these asterisks, what we can also do is set required fields on our web form. So if someone's filling that in on our site, what information is mandatory? So you can see here, first name already has an asterisk against it. If I click on the field, we can see that it's defaulted to being required. I might also say that a last name is required as well. And I'm also going to click on email and make that a required field as well and leave the mobile field as optional. So you can see now that I've made that change, all of those fields that I just marked now have an asterisk and they show as being required. Down here, if we come into the opportunity subject, you can see that I've added it twice. So when you're adding your fields over here, if you want to get rid of a field, it's as simple as selecting the field. So in this case, the opportunity one that I've duplicated, clicking delete, and it's gone. So I can basically add and remove fields and play around with those until I'm happy. So in here, this is the subject for the opportunity. So we can see here, it's got opportunity.name. So we have to fill this in. So what we want to do is not have this field facing the customer. So the customer doesn't need to know what we're going to call the opportunity, or the lead doesn't need to know that. So this is information that we want to program into CRM in the background for our benefit, but we don't actually need customer input to do that. So I'm going to untick the required field here. And I'm also going to tick the is hidden and is server only. So what this means is that the opportunity subject will be hidden from the public version of the form, but we can program that information in the back end. So in here, I will call this a new contact us opportunity. So I can basically put in a default value that will be filled out every time somebody submits this form. What I can also do is with this description box here, so quite often when we're using a form, there's text information that we want to gather from somebody. So what we can do is on the opportunity, use the description box to basically gather that text. So what I can do is rename that. So I don't necessarily want that box to be called description because to the end user, that's not going to make a lot of sense. So we can put in here, tell us about your requirements and basically rename the field so that it's called that. And I'm also going to make this actually a required field. So that means that they must give us more information about what their requirements are, and this is going to be the label for the field. What I can then do is I've got a type, a stage, and assign to. So all of these are opportunity fields. So what I can do is basically pre-program these fields to have an automatic value by hiding them from the customer. So in here, when the opportunity comes into the system, so I can sort my leads and my opportunities in my pipeline, I basically want to give them different types so that I can segment them. So what I can do is make this another required field and give it a default value. So that's why earlier I had this tab open for admin, settings, opportunity settings, because these show me the types that I have in my system already. So it's really important here that if you're giving something a default value and it's referring to a drop-down list, that particular value has to exist in the system before we can use it. So I have this tab open, so I can basically just click on an existing value and quickly copy that over, without having to go backwards and forwards too much. So when this type of inquiry comes in, CRM is going to create an opportunity and give it a type of sales, and the customer or the end user is never going to see that. It's exactly the same story with the stage. So you can see that now I've made those changes to the type field. It's a hidden field, and I can see what the default value is going to be filled with. So we want to do the same thing with a stage. Hide that from the customer, and then come back here and have a look at what our stage options are. So in here, I can see I've got a stage called inquiry. So I'm just going to copy that over and add that here as the default value to pre-program my opportunity. What I can also do using this assign to field is, again, hide this from the end user because it's information that they don't need to interact with or provide us, and give this a default value here. So in this case, what I'll do is assign this to the sales team. So again, just as we did with copying those options over before, it's important that you have the name of the person or the team that we want to assign that to correctly. Otherwise, you'll generate an error with the web form. So now that I've made all my choices, I've decided which fields are required and have to be filled in. I've hidden some fields and I've pre-programmed them with some information, and I've also renamed some fields so that they make a little bit more sense for the end user. What I can do is hit on Save and Close. So that has now saved the form for us. So you can see that's given us a number of options. So what we can do here is click on the embed code. So this is basically the code that you'll need to go and add over to your website to integrate the CRM form. So you can click on this copy to clipboard and do that quite easily. What we can also do is click on this HTML button here and we can select View. So what that's going to do is going to give us a preview of the form that we've just created. So you can see here how the fields that I set up with an asterisk as required fields are showing as such here. So if I try to fill in a form and don't have the appropriate information, so I'll leave the mobile number blank and I'll type something in here. If I try to submit that, email is a required field. So it's not going to let me submit that until I put an email address into the system. But this is a good way of previewing the form and seeing, okay, have I hidden the appropriate fields from the end user? And we can also put information in here and test that it works, because this will go straight through into CRM. So what I will do is pop in my email address in there, and you can see I've filled in some of the information, and let's put in some notes. And now I hit send. So this is where if you added a thank you page into the web form earlier, that will determine where I get directed once this form has been submitted. So I don't have a thank you page on this form, so it's basically just saying, congratulations, the form has been successfully processed. So what we can do now is come into CRM and we'll see that the system has created a new opportunity for me. So I told the system I wanted to call it a new Contact Us op. So it's done that, it's put through the notes, it's pre-programmed the opportunity with the type and the stage that I wanted, and it's also automatically assigned that opportunity to the sales team. It's also gone and created a contact for me in the system with the email address that I gave it. So you can see how we can use web forms to get this information into the system without anyone having to do any data entry. So it's a good idea to go and test your form first and make sure that it's working as you're expecting it to. So if we come back to our web form now, as well as being able to test it, we also have some other options in here. So what we can do, we have this tab called When Filled In. So what this lets us do is automatically add people who fill in the form to a marketing list. So those are the lists that we have in marketing over here in lists. And if you're integrated with either Campaign Monitor or MailChimp, you're going to have your list pull in from those services. So what I can do is basically go and add somebody that fills in this form automatically to, say, a grocery store list. So I can add them to that. I can remove them from another list if I want to, but this is a great way of basically putting people onto a newsletter or popping them onto a particular list of leads so that we can market to them in future. So I can add, remove, or get rid of my selections here in that section. Down here, notify the following users. So when we looked at this before with the employee notification template, who needs to get the email? So in here, I can select from users and teams in my system. So I might say that yes, definitely, I would like to know about that. And I'm also going to notify the sales team. So once I've made my choices here, I need to click update for my lists and update here for my users to apply the change. So that's all done. On this Fields tab here, this is just a different view for what we did earlier when we were creating the form. So this is showing us all those same fields that we programmed earlier. So first name, the type of field it is, whether or not that's hidden from the customer, whether or not it's a required field, and we can scroll through here and have a look at the fields. What we're also going to have is this completed forms tab. So you can see here, this is showing the form that I submitted just a second ago to test that my form was working, and we can see here that we've got success. So from this completed forms tab, you're going to see a history of all the previously submitted forms. If you have problems with your form, you will have a failure message here, and then you're going to have an error message telling you what the issue is. So if you ever need to diagnose why a form has failed and it hasn't submitted, come to this tab and look at the message, and we'll be able to figure it out from there. So that is a simple Contact Us web form in a nutshell. So just to review, when we're creating our form, we can link it to different areas of CRM depending on the type of records that we want to create. We can link it to a campaign, we can specify a thank you page, and we can also link it to email templates that we've created in admin templates and email templates that have a web form submitted as their source. We can then drag and drop fields over from the right-hand side over here onto the form and then manipulate them with details such as hiding values or making certain values required, or pre-programming information such as changing the display name on a field, so how it shows for the end user, and also getting information into the system such as giving it a default value for the opportunity subject. So that is web forms in a nutshell. If you have any issues while you're creating your form, please give us a call or send us an email to helpdesk@toolemu.com, and we will be more than happy to assist you.